Hey Facebook friends and YouTube pals, this is going to be a quick tutorial video on Henshooters humane mousetrap. My main inspiration behind making this mousetrap, guys, we had a few mice in the house. I was using regular traps and that, but as most of you are probably aware, it's not a very nice thing to wake up in the morning and have a mouse basically flat as a pancake in a little trap. And also, it being that, I used to just get the traps and throw them in the bin, which, as you all know, I really don't like doing. It's a waste of money and a waste of materials. So this is the basic trap here, guys, made out of a 1.25 plastic bottle. Doesn't really matter what sort of plastic bottle you use, as long as it's either round or square. I mean, you could probably even honestly use a 2-litre milk bottle. So we've got the little trigger mechanism here, guys, and a little piece of flat tin as the actual trigger plate. We put a little bit of bait up the top here in the neck, which is really good because obviously the entrance to the mousetrap is down the bottom here. So we can just unscrew the lid and put a little bit of bait in there with a little stick or something like that. You also need to place just a little tiny bit on the trigger plate. So I'll give you guys a bit of an example of how it works. You'll have to excuse the unusual mouse at the end of the stick here, guys. So your mouse goes da 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 da, squeak squeak, you know what they're like. Comes crawling in there, guys. Wants to obviously sniff up the back there because that's where the bait and that is. So it comes walking up here, sees a little bit of bait on top of the trigger plate. Now this one's hair trigger, guys. And hey presto, closes the lid down. You've got your mouse trapped inside there, guys. So really great little easy as pie unit to make there. So I'm going to start with the building materials next, about what you actually need to build, and then we'll get on to marking out the bottle to the places you need to mark it out. Alrighty guys, we're going to get on to what we need to build this little model here, guys. First of all, trusty pair of scissors there, guys. I always use these scissors. I find they're one of my favourite pairs for building most of my models, if not all of them. You're also going to need a pair of needle nose pliers. Make sure, guys, when you get them that you've got a really fine tip there, because you're going to need to do some quite small folds. Easy folds, but they are quite small. You're also going to need yourself a little pocket knife or a little handy knife. Make sure that's sharp as anything, guys, because you're going to need to get through the bottle initially. You're also going to need a Sharpie there, guys, or a marker of some type, preferably permanent marker. Otherwise what happens is you're halfway through building your model and you lose all your marks, and then you're basically knackered. You've got to start over again. You're also going to need a little bit of fishing wire there, guys, or fishing line, preferably smaller stuff. I mean, this is 6 pound, but don't go using anything like 20-40 pound or whatever that sort of high-end sizes are, because it's a little bit too thick for what we want. You're also going to need a couple of lacquer bands, guys, some preferably quite thin like that. You can use a thicker elastic band there, but it's kind of quite a lot more trouble there. You're going to need the classic old little bit of tin, and yes, again, this is from a biscuit tin lid. You're also going to need a couple of little bits of wire, guys. Now you need 2 lengths, approximately maybe 4 inches long each, and you also want to get yourself some wire that's basically, it's quite sturdy. Like, you don't want to use the inside of a bit of a cable or something that's really thin, because one of these pieces here is going to be under a bit of tension, and if you use a really thin wire, you just won't get that tension whatsoever. You're also going to need yourself your bottle, which is the main body of the trap, guys. Doesn't really matter sort of what soft drink bottle you use. You could even probably use a milk carton, to be honest with you, but I just use these because it's what we drink, a generic brand of cola, and I've got a few of these bottles laying around. So we'll get on to the actual marking out of the bottle stage now, guys. So get yourself your Sharpie ready and your bottle ready, and we'll get on to the next stage. That's one good cup of joe. Oh shit, sorry guys, I didn't realise you were back. Hope you didn't see or hear me doing anything awkward. Anyway, I'm cutting this lid for the trap there, guys. Right, now to make this lid as best as you possibly can, because you're going to need it when it shuts to be as square as it possibly can. I tend to find you can use these little sections here. 90% of pop bottles will have them nowadays, and if they don't and they've still got the old black sort of base there, guys, I wouldn't go drinking them, because you'd probably end up carking it at about 2 minutes flat. So what I do, guys, is choose one of these sections here. I go up about 1 centimetre from the very bottom and I take that measurement there, guys. Now what I basically do there is I mark it a little bit further up, but I'm going to explain something here to you as well, guys. This is the label section, right? Now you'll see from this line here that the diameter of this label section is actually smaller than the very base section here, and this is the little lip to show you that, guys. Now you want to work somewhere in the thicker diameter piece, right? Now what you usually find is just out of manufacture you've got a couple of really nice straight lines there. I've lightly marked that line there out just so you can maybe make it out a little bit better, but that's what you're going to utilise for your trapdoor. So as I was saying, guys, I take the measurement from there, right, and I basically transfer it to the next line up there. Quite easy to do. No problems at all. Yeah, it might be a tiny little bit off, but that doesn't really matter too much. So this section here, guys, from here to here, we want to leave that intact, right? Because that's going to act as the hinge for the door. But we do want to cut everything else that's around this section here. So I'll give you an example of one of the bottles that I've cut out ready already, so you can see basically what I'm talking about. So now that is the hinge section. There is a little bit of spring in there, guys, but in one of the steps you're going to need to fold it back here like this, so you'll lose that spring anyway. But we're using elastic bands to actually act as the spring mechanism anyway. So on to the next part. By now, guys, you should have cut out all of this section here and left this little bit so you've got your hinge. Now this is the second part where these little 5 divots here come into play, because what I need to do now is place the elastic bands, or place the marks for the elastic bands, right? So I go to the next divot down from the hinge divot here. Go to that next divot down. Now where I've cut, basically right in the center, I go all the way down. You don't have to mark this part there, guys, and I mark a hole about 1/2 centimetre away from where my cut is. Then what I want to do is go to the inside of that next part of that divot, okay, and I want to mark about 1 inch up from the bottom there and mark a second mark there. Now they're basically your 2 anchor points there for your elastic bands. You need to do that on both sides there, guys, so I'm going to show you how I do that again. So that's the hinge divot there, or the hinge bump there, guys. You go on to the next section, measure right down from the bottom there, and you want to give it a mark about 1/2 centimetre up from where you've cut it. Alright, you then go on to the indent section and you go about an inch, maybe 1 inch and a bit, and you mark that there like that. That way your anchor points on both sides are going to be relatively even. If they're not even, what happens, guys, is your door will actually run skew if. I'll give you a quick example of what I'm talking about there. So this is one of the lids, obviously I've cut already. Now these are my anchor points here. You'll see this one here there, guys, and then you might be able to see that one out, just a little tiny hole there. Now I've cut these square, but what will happen here, guys, is I've actually cut this little one here a little bit off. So the tension on both sides actually has to be different, and if you equal, or you make tension of the bands on both sides equal, you tend to find the door will shut like this, and you don't want that to happen, right? So on to the next part anyway, guys, where I'm going to show you guys, after cutting your bottle out, a quick and easy way to make your holes. So get on to that step, cut your bottle out and everything, guys, and yeah, on to the next step. We've got this lid's cut nice and square. This is what I was talking about, that the lid's got a little bit of spring action, but in all honesty that doesn't end up coming into play anyway, so that doesn't really matter at the moment. So the way I actually do my little holes in the bottles for the anchor points for the elastic bands is I take myself a little paper clip and I use a lighter. Now guys, I'm going to state this to you guys, I know a lot of young people do watch my videos and enjoy making the models that I do make. Now I'm asking as a parent and as a concerned adult, you know, if you're a young kid, don't use a lighter, get mum and dad or get your guardian to come and help you with this, because heating up, what I'm going to do, heating up this wire here, you can really severely burn yourself, so just take care when you're doing this, guys. But anyway, I get silly lighter won't light. What's going on here? Ah, there we go. Take your lighter there, guys, heat up your piece of wire obviously, and then whack it on the mark. Now you don't want too big a hole there, guys, you want a relatively small hole. Now these are the marks that we did earlier on for the anchor points for the elastic band or the trigger mechanism. So I'm just going to burn these through quickly. Excuse if I'm being a bit quiet there, guys, but I'll just do this. I'm actually doing both sides here as well, so one more, and there. And that's it. So what you should end up with by now is a little lid section that'd have 2 holes on either side here, and then on the bottle itself you should have 2 holes down the bottom like this. Now as I said, these sections here, or these holes, are for the anchor points for the elastic bands. Now you don't need a very big elastic band, as I've said previously, guys, and I don't know whether this is truth or not. I've just read up a little bit on the internet about it. Apparently mice don't like, excuse my hand, I'm just getting a couple of lucky bands there. Apparently mice don't like the smell and taste of latex, so a small little knot will be tied on the inside of these to close the door shut, but from what I'm told, mice won't chew it up anyway, so you'll be perfectly fine. So take your elastic band there, guys. I can't, here's my scissors. Cut your elastic band, okay, because you're only going to need one little piece of it. Now what you need to do, guys, is thread from the outside, thread your elastic band into the bottle. Alright, put your hand inside the bottle and peel it through. You need to tie maybe 2 or 3 knots, just so it's a little bit thicker than what it normally would be. I usually just tie 2, but you know, it's entirely up to you. So what will basically, oops, hang on, we forgot an important step. Once you've tied that little knot there in your elastic band, guys, cut off any leftover waste just to keep the trap nice and clean. Alright, and when we pull that back through, you'll see obviously there, the elastic band's going to stay nice and tight and in its place. Now the next part here is quite difficult to do, guys, because what you've basically got to do is you've got to get the elastic band through here and then get it as not as tight as you can, but as tight so that the lid's got a very good sealing snap on it, and essentially you want it like this. So it is quite difficult to get the knot in this section here. What I usually do, which is sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, so you'll have to excuse me here if it doesn't work, is I pre-tie one single knot in my elastic band, probably maybe 3/4 of an inch from the first one, and then when I thread the elastic band through this section, excuse me for a sec, guys, this is quite difficult to do. Alright, there we go. When I pull it through like that, we'll get to the knot here. Now you're thinking, the knot's not gonna pull through. I was a poet and I didn't even know it. The knot's not going to pull through, but if you give it just a little bit of a tug, it will pop through and hold in place. So as you can see, guys, that's one of the elastic bands in place. Obviously I need to get the scissors and cut the excess. Oh, excuse me for a second there, guys. There we go. So you've got one side of the anchor point. Now this is sort of what I mean by you've got to get it even here, guys, because as you can see I've got one anchor point there and I haven't got the other side, so it's tending to lean off to one side a bit, but as soon as you put your second anchor point in, that'll keep it nice and straight. So I'm going to do this one quickly off camera, guys, to save a little bit of time, and we'll get on to the next step as soon as we've finished doing this. Ciao for now. Alright guys, as I said, we should be at this step now where we've got both our anchor points secured for our spring load for our trap. As I said, this is going to be the main component that actually holds the door shut. So make sure these are nice and tight and make sure they're nice and even. Now, a friend has suggested to me, in this case, it may be a good idea to get a little bit of electrical tape, guys, and place the electrical tape around there, because as you'll see, there is a little bit of sideways movement with this. In my opinion, it's not enough, and it's strong enough that it's going to stop a mouse from being able to squeeze out. I know this because I've caught several mouse over the last couple of days placing these just outside near the grass, and one little bugger inside last night, which I managed to get. So anyway, on to the next step, where we're actually going to build the base for the trip plate. We're just going to get this bottle out of the way here. So we start off with a little piece of tin there, guys. Now this is going to be a little bit smaller than what I'd normally do, because this is just a little bit of scrap material that I'm using, and I'm not actually going to use this door here for the build. I've already pre-made one. So you start off with your little piece of tin. Now I'd recommend, say, 4 centimeters by 3 centimeters. Okay, that's probably a really great size door for the mice, or trip door for the mice. So we cut 2 little sections at the end there, roughly about ½ centimeter away from the end and ½ centimeter up. Now it's not vitally important that you do this, guys, but it does aid you in this step here. So we get these little bits that we've just cut, these tabs, and we want to bend them upwards, right? Just like that. Try and make this as even as you possibly can, and nice and level. And then you'll end up with a section that's in here, like a little tab. So what we want to do is get that little section there, and as square as you possibly can, progressively bend it downwards, so you're making like a little hook shape. Now I'll explain in a minute why we're doing that. Alright, so we keep on bending this down like so. Alright, now, so that's sort of on its way, right? What we're going to end up with by the end of it is something that looks like that, guys. So you've got your little tabs that are pointed that way, yeah, silly goose, and then you've got your little hook section. Now the main idea behind the hook section is when you place your piece of wire through the bottle, your hook's basically going to sit on there. You get your needle nose pliers and you give them a little pinch here in the middle and on that side there, and that's going to hold it in place for you, but at the same time it's going to be nice and have a lot of nice fine movement in it. So that's pretty much it for that step. We're going to move back to the bottle now, guys. So you need to find your position for your trip plate there. Now the way I do this, guys, is I flip the bottle upside down. As you can see, it's upside down, so the hinge section is down inside there. I'll hold that hinge section as flat and level as I can on the surface, and then I use my eye to run across to the line where it actually changes to a larger diameter here on the bottle. I'll mark 2 holes in there. Now the way you want to do your 2 holes there, guys, or the distance you want to do in your 2 holes, is that inside distance from this side here to this side here. So what I normally do is actually mark these points. I place that over nice and square, mark that point there, mark that point there, and then I use the same lighter method and I burn them through. You find you want your piece of wire to turn really nice and freely, so you might want to open up your holes a little bit. I get this skewer here, guys. I put the skewer inside the bottle, I give it a couple of turns and a little bit of a push and stuff like that, and then you'll tend to find that the piece of wire that you're using will go through here. And this is the basic outcome you want for this part here, is a really nice free spinning piece of wire. So we'll get on to the next step now, guys, which is actually fitting a little trip door. Oh, hang on a second, I did forget one step there, guys. What you need to do as well with this little door here, as you can see, I've placed a little hole up in the top right in the dead center. Now this is essential here, guys. This is for the trip mechanism, because your wire is going to place through there that's going to hold it up. When the mouse steps on it, away it drops, and then the pin moves away, which shuts the door. So drill your little hole out here. Try and make it as even and as fine as you possibly can, guys, with no burrs on the edges and stuff. Basically because the more burrs and stuff you have on there, the wire will tend to grab and it won't set off your trap as well. And you got to remember, you with this trap you're only going for mice that are a couple of grams, so you want it sort of as hair trigger fine as you possibly can. So we'll move on to the next step anyway, guys, and that's fitting the shaft along here and actually fitting the trapdoor onto the model itself. And yeah, get yourself ready. Alright guys, so this is the stage we're at where we're going to fit this little door here, or the trapdoor, onto the actual model itself. Quite an easy process. Admittedly it is a little bit fiddly, guys, but you should get it no problem whatsoever. So what you want to do is put your trapdoor inside. Now this is where I was telling you, you need to bend up these little sections here. I'll just move the bottle out of the way, because essentially what those little sections do is stop the door from moving over backwards. As you can see there, once it's actually anchored in spot, it stays quite well in its place there. So you can bend them down to get it to exactly where you want to sit, guys, but that's the basic idea behind it. So I've got my little piece of wire here now, ready to fit in there. So I'm going to take my little trip plate here. Alright, I'm going to place it inside now. You want it opening that, or having that sort of action there, guys, because you don't want it the opposite way around to where it's opening up like that. Oh, sorry, it's a bit difficult to show you, where it's opening up like that, because that basically is the front of the trap there, and the mouse is going to walk through here to the back. So if you've got it like this, essentially what's going to happen, the mouse walks through, touches the bait here, and that's going to drop there, which sets the trap off. So I've got my little piece of wire, as you can see here. Just going to feed it through there, guys, and hopefully if you've done it quite nice and straight and level, like I probably haven't here. Yep, there we go, we've got it in there. So the plate, there you go, guys, is sitting freely like that. I'm going to bend it up a little bit just to give it a little bit more movement, but there you go, you get the basic idea. So the more hairline it is, or the easier it is just to flick it like that and have it move, the more hairline your unit's going to be. But you can see here where I've got my finger here is where the tab stops it from moving any further up and down. So from there you're going to need your little piece of wire, that's your trip wire. Let me see where if I put it, is just right here. So this is just a little nice straight piece of wire, guys, and what I've done is just put a little loop on the top of it there, because that's where part of the wire is going to come through. You can make it really as long as you want right now, because you can cut it down to the shape that you want it. But essentially you want to get the trap like this when this trapdoor is sitting up like that. Okay, you can see I've made a hole right here. Now that hole lines up with that hole when it's sitting up. So if I put the wire through the plate here, I haven't actually bent the wire completely into shape and stuff, so it might not work as accurately as what I'd like at the very second. So I'm just going to put my hand in there to show you the basic idea of the trap there, guys. So this wire goes through here, okay, and sits on the hair trigger like that. Okay, and this piece here, oh sorry guys, I just popped it out there, that's how hairline it is. A line here goes from here to the lid of the bottle. So essentially what happens is when the mouse steps on the plate, as he steps on the plate, it releases the pin pulls out like that, guys, and shuts the door down. So I'm going to complete that process there, guys, and show you quickly how to do that one. But yeah, basically this trap's almost finished. So on to the next step. Alrighty guys, by now we should be at the final steps to almost completion of this great little trap. So we should have our little door here, that's got our plastic hinge on the top there, guys. We should have elastic bands on the side attached to our anchor points. Alright, on both sides. And like I've said, it's essential, guys, that you try and get these stretched as evenly as possible. We should also now have our little hole in the top and our trip plate. So the next little part we need to do there, guys, is actually attach the string to the door that holds it open. So you get yourself your little paper clip. Now I've done this ahead of time to save time, and you poke 2 little holes. Now the place where I've actually poked those into is above the plastic hinge there, guys. I've moved about halfway down that little notch and 2 little holes in there. Now what I've also done, I'm just going to move my hand so you guys can see that a little bit better. I've used a little bit of string so I can show you guys on camera, because fishing line doesn't come up that well, but I've actually looped the piece of string in one end and out the other end, so you'll end up with 2 pieces of string attached to the door like that. Now I prefer to use fishing line, and I use a length of about 2 foot for 2 reasons. One, I use fishing line because it's got a lot more spring in it and it aids in the hairline capabilities of the trap. And number 2, I also use that because it's a little bit stronger than your regular string. It lasts a little bit longer, and it's easy to work with a longer length of string. So you should also, as I say, be at the step now where you've put the string in along here, guys, and you want to get your trip pin. Now these are quite easy to make, guys. It is a little bit fiddly trying to get the actual correct measurement of that, but what you want to do is get your wire at first and put a little loop through there. Don't completely close it over, because you want to put your fishing line on there, and if you try and squeeze it through, you'll end up snapping it. I've also put a little bend in the opposite end of it here, because I've already measured this one up to size, to what I need it, but it's really not that difficult, guys. You just got to place it in there. Turn your trip door up, guys. Okay, turn it up like this, and as long as that circle on this side hits on there, and you've only got a few millimeters hanging over this side here, as you can see from there, you should be perfectly fine there. So I can hold this like this now, and as soon as I take my pressure off, boom, it drops down. That's pretty much it, guys. All you'll need to do from here is give me a moment to tie the string up and get the little trap set, and then we'll show you setting it off. So yeah, give me a moment. Okay guys, we're at the very final stage of finishing off and being able to set this little trap. So what we're going to discuss now, or what I'm going to show you guys now, is how to set the actual length of the trip wire. Now as you can see from my little pointer here, they're the 2 holes that I put in the top there before, and threaded the little bit of cable through. Now I have threaded the fishing line through, which is quite difficult to see. You may be able to pick it up just in that picture there, but I have put fishing line through. I've actually completely set this trap ready to go. So the way you get your length is to open your door up to your suitable size that you want. I prefer probably about 2 or 3 inches for a little mouse. Just makes them feel a little bit more comfortable, and they'll use the trap more readily. So yeah, anyway, open the door as I was saying, and take the string right to the end here, and pinch it off here with your fingers like this, guys. If you can see there, pinch it off like that. I then take my fingers a further, say 2 centimeters up the string, and that's where I tie the knot off. I then join the knot onto the little loop that I've done there on the pin, and I'll hopefully be able to pull this up and show you guys. As you can see there, it's already set, ready to go. So that's the basic idea of the string there, guys, and then I'll show you what happens here. Alright, we'll set off this little trap, lay it on the ground like that. Now I do find here and there a little blob of blue tack sitting on the bottom there will hold it nice and flat on the ground. Otherwise you can just leave it like this, and the mice have got plenty of access through this section here, and also going through this section. It's, as you can see from me banging it, it's not going to set off automatically. So anyway, you want to put your bait, excuse me while I just put the stick in there, you want to put your bait on the very end of this plate here, guys, as close as possible to the very tip, and then you can also put a little bit on the end there. Obviously, as I've said in previous step, you've got to save your lid, so once you've put your bait in, put your lid on, guys, like that, and your trap is ready to go. Now I'm going to set this one off just to see how we go for a first build. As I said, with some of them you've got to adjust them here and there to get them working correctly, because you know that's just what building things is all about. So here's the little mousey in here. He goes up here, has a sniff around, feels the peanut butter there. Right, oh, I'll just hold the trap a little bit there, guys, because otherwise it's going to slip on me. Holds the little, sees the little plate on the top there with the peanut butter on, goes to have a lick of the peanut butter, and he's stuck. So what's actually happened is the set pin has actually completely come out of the bottle there, guys, completely pulled out and away, and that trap has now got your little mouse inside. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial video today, and I really hope you guys get out there and build some of your own little models and contraptions and stuff. You know, someday you might find you need that bit of info. Take care, everyone, enjoy yourself, and if you post any, or if you make any of these models, post a video or two showing me. I'd really appreciate it. Ciao for now, guys. Henshooter out.